And I feel very bad, very, very strongly about developments in respect of these two bills. Firstly, the PIB bill. You are aware, as I said, I spoke to some of you the day I led a group of senators to leave the chamber, because that was the right thing to do, in order not to lend our names to a legislation that is oppressive, a legislation that is insensitive, a legislation that does not serve the national interest, a legislation that does not take account of the yearnings and sufferings of the people who are producing the oil resources of this country. And I told you my views. I told you that President Yar'Adua sent the first bill to the National Assembly, the PIB. That work, PIB work, started right from Obasanjo's time. That was when the idea was mooted. And under Yar'Adua, the late Minister of Petroleum Resources, what's his name? Rilwanu Lukman, he was Petroleum Minister when this bill came. This bill proposed 10% for host communities. It also proposed 10% for frontier development. No more. Now, unfortunately, the bill could not be passed all these years. Very sad. We are happy, people are happy that at least the National Assembly has been able to break that jinx or whatever looks like it concerning the PIB. But we must get it right. We must get it right. And as you know, I disagree completely, and most of us disagree completely with the 3% that was eventually passed. And of course, you know the history. You know that there was the Senate passed 3%, the House passed 5%. And they went for a conference, and then the conference came up with 3%, so we're told. But you see, this country is not helping itself. This country is not even helping investors. This country is not helping host communities by not creating the enabling environment that will enable investments to thrive. The argument is that, oh, anything more than 3%, investors will not come. And so what? If the host communities are not happy, will investors come? If the host communities do not have a stake in oil exploration and exploitation activities, the investors that they are trying to bring will not only come, those who come by whatever means, once they find that the situation is not conducive, they will take off. And it is not a wise decision, because you are not dealing with only one community. You are dealing with thousands, hundreds of communities. And don't forget that now, even the transit communities have a stake. I know that people are arguing why pipeline communities should be part of it, but there is sense in that. Because if you exclude pipeline communities, they can sabotage the entire operations, isn't it? So it's a question of percentage. It's a question of a proper discretion at the level of management of this host community fund. So still a lot of thinking, a lot of skill has to be deployed in the actual management of the host communities fund. But the world knows, these host communities knows, that at the beginning of this bill, what was proposed was 10% for them. And no one is engaging them. No one is explaining anything to them. All they have seen is that people who say they have majority votes have imposed a 3% on them, and they're angry. And let's be very clear. That's why I am of the view that this 3% that we have passed, the National Assembly appears to have passed today, is not helpful to the host communities. It's not helpful even to the oil companies. It is also not helpful to the country. Because if we want to attract investment, then we must all work hard hand in hand with the host communities. Get their buy-in, get their understanding, get their support, and first create an enabling environment for investments to thrive. So I believe that it's not too late to make a new day. There is still room for a review of this so that we can have the buy-in of the oil company, of the host communities. I also made the case that, look, there's nothing wrong about appropriating money, giving money for development of frontier basins. But should it be up to 30%? Should it be? Frontier basins are several in the country. I know that it serves everybody's interest. It serves the national interest in exploring more basins. In exploring more basins. You have the Gongola Basin, you have the Benue area, you have the Sokoto Basin, you have the Dahomey, Ogun area, you have the Anambra Basin, and so on. Nobody is against that. Nobody is against it. But when oil-producing communities hear that 30% of NNPC funds, profits, are located to oil exploration, and they have been denied even 5%, 5%, not even 10%. They have been denied 5%. It's not a very helpful situation for the oil industry. So we wish our country well, but I thought because you all know how we feel, and I had to walk out because that was the right thing to do. We didn't want our names to be part of that kind of activity, and that is about it. I spoke to some of you that day, but I thought I should also, because some were asking me even as I was coming in, why the walkout and why not the walkout? That's a normal parliamentary practice. When you disagree and you make a point. Now, the second one has to do with the Electoral Act Amendment. And you have seen the backlash. You have seen the backlash. First, as a member of the committee, all the members who did a good job in presenting that draft, which would have taken care of all the controversies that are now being raised. That draft would have enabled INEC to transmit electronically wherever and whenever they felt that their technology available would make it possible for that to be done. That draft took care of all the concerns that some of the members raised, even at the level of the committee. And we pushed it through, and everyone agreed. Now, you can see the attack on the National Assembly, the attack on the Senate especially. But what I want to say, as I said in another interview 2 days ago, is that there is a marked difference between what we passed in the Senate and what the House passed from the reports I'm reading. I've not seen the copies, but that's what I'm. If that is so, then there's likely to be a conference committee on it. While casting my vote for electronic transmission, as you all know, I made it very clear that it is unconstitutional for the National Assembly, for any arm, for anybody, to subordinate the independence and operational powers and discretion conferred by the Constitution on INEC. You can't subordinate INEC to any other body. It is not constitutional. And if that ends up as the position of both chambers, you can be very clear, you can be sure what the likely decisions of the courts will be. And that's why you have the executive, you have the legislature, and you have the judiciary. Laws that are passed that are inconsistent with the Constitution will be challenged. And as I said on the floor, I'm not just saying it here, I said it on the floor, that it is unconstitutional to subject the independence of INEC, the operational independence of INEC, to another agency, to a report by another agency, no matter how technical, no matter how highly placed that agency may be. I thought we should also make that clear, that there is still room for further legislative work, and Nigerians should not lose hope. It is gratifying to see that Nigerians love democracy, and they are excited about voting, and the expectation is that they want their votes to count and their votes to be counted. And I believe that the National Assembly exists to make that possible, not to hinder it.